It's been a long time coming. Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am your host, Dragon, and watch as I breathe my fire into your soul with the God of War BA Warrior PS4 E3 2017 gameplay trailer. And oh my god, am I excited for this game, man. It has been a year since last year's E3, obviously, and a year since I did my last video on the premiere trailer for the new God of War game. If you guys didn't know already by just everything I've said on the channel, or by my most popular video on the channel, which was my first God of War trailer E3 2016 trailer analysis, if you guys didn't see all of that already, you guys need to know now, God of War is my absolute favorite game series of all time. Played the first one when I was 5, number 2 when I was 7, number 3 when I was 10. I have the collection, the God of War saga with all 6 of the games, and I have the newest one that came out in 2013, God of War Ascension. I read up on all the posts and everything about it. I try to find out as much as I possibly can about it. It is absolutely my favorite game series of all time. And if you saw last year's E3 2016 trailer video, you know exactly how much I love this game and how much it means to me and just how important this series is to my life and to my heart. And I really appreciate the fact that the video that I was probably the most passionate to record out of almost all of my videos did the most well out of all of my other videos. So I'm really excited to be doing this one for you guys, and I'm going to be doing this video in the exact same style and format as I did last year's E3 2016 trailer analysis. I'm just going to be going through, looking at the trailer and, you know, seeing what there is and talking about it, and maybe sometimes kind of fanboying over all of the beautiful graphics and combat and story and everything like that. So if you don't like this loud, squeaky, cracky voice, I suggest you click off of the video now. If you're a huge God of War fan like I am and you just want to see more about the game and talk about it and have discussions, please hit me up in any way you can. Message me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or leave a comment or whatever you want, asking any questions you have about me and my experience with God of War, or maybe even any other games I'm looking forward to in E3 that were shown at E3 2017, or anything else like that. E3 2017 God of War trailer was very beautiful, and I'm really excited to dive into it and just analyze it with you guys and go through it the same way I did last year, but with the new trailer that's titled the Be a Warrior trailer. We got a lot of new information in an interview with Cory Balrog, or I don't know if it's Barlog or Balrog, but we got a new interview with him and a couple of other people that were on the team, and we got some more information. We got to look at the cover art. We got to look at a little bit more of some story details and some combat. So what I'm going to be doing, same as last year, and if you didn't see last year's video, you guys can go watch that if you would like. But basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be watching the trailer from beginning to end and just pausing it at certain moments and kind of going through it, and I'll have screenshots for you guys to look at and stuff like that, just so you don't have to have the trailer next to you if you don't really feel like doing that. But just know that I'm going to be watching the trailer, so sometimes I might pause for a second, sometimes I might talk too much about something and then talk not enough about something else. But if there's any questions you guys have after this video is over, anything you guys want to know about my perspective, story, theories, or anything like that, anything at all you guys want to talk about, please leave a comment in the comment section below. I'm always so excited to talk to you guys. I love the community. I love you guys. I love God of War. I love video games, and I know we all do. And so I want to take this opportunity to make this not only a God of War experience, but a community experience for all of us, because I really love connecting with you guys. So please leave any questions or comments or suggestions or anything like that in the comment section below. But without further ado, let us start the trailer. I'm just going to have it next to me watching it. So yeah, here we go. Oh man, it's crazy to see how much more stuff was shown in this trailer than what was in the last one. This one is a lot more cut edited. You know, the last trailer from E3 2016 had a lot of cut edits in it, or it didn't have any cut edits in it. It was just all one straight camera shot. But this trailer actually has a lot of cuts in it, so I'm going to have to stop a lot more, and I'm going to have a lot more to talk about. Now, the trailer opens up pretty slowly. You know, it's just Kratos kind of rowing in the boat with his son. Actually, one cool thing about that we found out after I did my video last year on E3 2016 trailer, we found out Kratos' son's name is Atreus. So that's just kind of a cool little thing. Not super important, but it kind of dashed away all of the theories that he was going to be Thor and stuff like that. So I guess it kind of helps a little bit. Now, what happens in this trailer is Kratos is rowing in the boat with Atreus, and he gets up and Atreus asks, "Are you gonna do it?" Kratos stands up and throws his amazing new ice axe into the distance. Now, as we saw last year, I'm just gonna talk about it briefly here because I talked about it a lot last year. I can't speak. His axe once again turns into ice, so I just think it's really cool how it kind of like goes through this stage where it like powers up. And it's really funny how the Blades of Chaos and the Blades of Athena and then the Blades of Exile were all looked kind of fiery. They were kind of fire based. And now in the with his new weapon, the axe, which we still don't know the full origin story of, by the way. With his new axe, it's ice, so it's kind of funny how he went on a complete switch up, but I like it. I like the new weapon. There's some combat that's shown later, and it's really interesting, so yeah, let's keep going. Now, what's really funny is that very early on in the trailer, Atreus, Kratos' son, actually says here, let me get it. Let me watch it again so I don't mess up the quote. He says, "You said I was cursed. You think I'm weak because I'm not like you." Now, as we see later on in the trailer, we kind of notice that Atreus can kind of speak this Nordic language in these new Nordic lands that Kratos is not familiar with, because as we all know, God of War, the original series, was always based on Greek mythology, loosely based on it. You know, Kratos went and destroyed all of the Greek gods, but now that they're all gone, he kind of went on and moved on into this new world, and it's just kind of interesting to see. We see a little bit more as the trailer goes on, but Atreus can actually understand the language, and it's really interesting to see because Kratos is so unfamiliar with these new lands, and he really doesn't know anything about what's going on in these new areas, and it's a first for him, and he's going through these experiences with his son, and his son actually understands the language, which is kind of strange because as Atreus just said, you know, you said I was cursed, you think I'm weak because I'm not like you. So it's kind of interesting seeing how Kratos is Greek, and Atreus comes from the Norse mythology. He comes from the Norse land. Yeah, he's his son, so he speaks, you know, the same language as him, and a lot of people speak the same language, English, but it's kind of interesting because while they're father and son, they're still very different because they're from kind of different cultures in a certain way. So it's really, really interesting to see that. I'm really interested to see more of the story of how Atreus is different from Kratos and how they're alike, and exactly what changes as the story progresses, and it's just, it's all really interesting. And all of the environments in this game are so beautiful too, from what I've seen so far. Kratos then goes on to say, "You don't know everything, boy." And then Atreus says, "No, but at least I know the truth now." And then Kratos kind of dwells on this for a brief second. And it's really interesting because none of us even know the truth. We don't know exactly what happened in between the end of God of War 3 and now, when Atreus is at least like 8-9 years old. So it's been a long time since Kratos, spoiler alert for God of War 3, by the way, it's been a long time since Kratos stabbed himself with the Blade of Olympus to release hope into the world, you know, and he died, and he was resurrected on the symbol of the Phoenix, and we saw that trail of blood leading away. It's been a long time since that happened, and you know, Kratos went to these new lands, met a woman, had a child, and I guess the mother, whoever she is, taught Atreus the Norse language, and it's just, I'm still so curious to see exactly what happened in the space of all of that time that passed by. I'm still so curious to see, you know, what happened, how Kratos lived, what did he do, where did he go, what happened to the dying Greek world that he left behind, what has he been, you know, doing with Atreus thus far, who's the mother. We still don't know a lot of things, so it's all very interesting because they dwell on the truth, and, you know, it's like, again, we still don't really know the truth all that well, so it's just very interesting. Now, there's a little bit more cuts, but the trailer starts with this booming music, you know, blah, and then we see this beautiful little landscape, this environment here, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. We see it's a very icy area, you know, it's the Nordic lands, it's very snowy, very dark, and it's really, really interesting. And we see this huge, gigantic Titan-looking creature sprawled out across the land. I'll put a screenshot up right now. We see this big character that kind of looks like it has a Kratos beard going on, and we see this giant creature, we don't know exactly what it is, laying down almost as if it's dead. We see Atreus aiming his bow at some enemies. We see a couple of buildings in the distance, and we see this giant hammer-looking weapon that this creature was holding. For all we know, this isn't even really a creature. It might just be a statue, but it looks really, really interesting. And as I mentioned earlier, the environments in this game look absolutely gorgeous. They look absolutely beautiful, and so I'm really, really excited to see more as we see more of the game in the coming months. I'm so excited. It looks very, very gorgeous. They have a very beautiful art direction. One thing that was mentioned in an interview with the art director was that around the environments in the game, you'll see a lot of runes. You'll see a lot of symbols placed around the place, a lot of runes, and a little fun fact that they offered us fans watching was that all of these runes actually mean something, which I thought was really interesting, because if somebody really wants to, they can take screenshots and look at what all of these runes mean, and it's really interesting because you might be able to get a couple of more story details that way, and it's just so amazing to see that they're putting so much love and detail into this game. But I'm really interested to see what that big old statue and or creature with the hammer is all about. But let's keep going here. Now, this unknown character says to Kratos and Atreus, "Long way from home, aren't you?" We see a couple of more shots. We see this shot of these wolves, which looks really ominous and mysterious. We see Kratos holding a pouch full of something. We don't know what it is exactly. Just a couple more small shots. And the same character who said, "Long way from home, aren't you?" He says, "And here I thought your kind were supposed to be so enlightened, so much better than us," which is really interesting because I'm assuming that whoever this character is talking to Kratos, and it's just so interesting to see this because for all we know, what I'm kind of getting from this is that perhaps maybe Greece had the Greek gods and everything like that, and maybe Kratos just traveled to another land, and so he's meeting these new Nordic people, and that's where he had Atreus and all of that stuff, and maybe he's just talking to these new people in this new land, almost kind of like a racial thing. I don't want to make it sound like that, but it kind of sounds like that. He's like, "Long way from home," kind of sounds like a gang turf war. Hey, where you from, homie? I'm just kidding, of course, but it's really interesting to see that because it's almost as if Kratos is being discriminated against, and it's really interesting to see Kratos go through something like that because he's always been the most powerful character in the series, and he's always kind of been a reject of certain sorts, even very early on, even though he was a captain of the Greek army, he was still an outcast in the eyes of the gods. As the story progressed. And so for him to kill himself with a blade of Olympus, go on and have his son, and to still be facing that kind of discrimination where he's in an unfamiliar place with unfamiliar people who see him as an unfamiliar person coming into their lands. And it's really interesting to see. I'm saying interesting a lot, aren't I? I'm sorry. I'm just excited, but it's just very profound to think about because it kind of begs the question, what exactly, is Kratos going to go through when it comes to these issues? And is Atreus going to go through his own discriminatory issues just because he's Kratos' son? So it's really interesting to see that. Now, what's really interesting is that right after this part, Kratos and Atreus are like in this room, and it's like covered in these webs, and it's just really old, looks like this abandoned area, and we see Kratos walk across this urn with a picture of him on it, holding up the Blades of Chaos with all of these dead warriors, and it's just so interesting to see that little glimpse into Kratos' past, and maybe Atreus is gonna see that same pot and think, "Oh my god, Dad, is this you?" And just maybe they'll have a little discussion about that or whatever, but it's kind of a nice little throwback to what Kratos used to be. We've always known Kratos as this big ball of rage, and to see him make such a drastic change from, this lonely outcasted warrior to this now father of a son who he has to take care of in an unfamiliar land that he's not used to. It's a very beautiful story to tell, and I'm really excited to see how they tell that story, and what happened to Kratos in between God of War 3 and now, and where he's gonna go with Atreus and who the mother is and all of that stuff. And to see that little flashback into the past kind of reminds us Kratos has always been a very angry, not evil necessarily, but this angry, vengeful character, and for him to kind of leave that lifestyle behind to raise his son is such a beautiful thing, and I'm very excited to see where they take that. Very, very awesome. Now, right after this is where we get into the good stuff. We get to see a little bit of combat. We see this pan shot of Atreus and Kratos standing in front of all of these enemies, and we see a couple of quick shots of Kratos taking down some enemies with his axe, and it's so amazing. We see him splitting people in half. We see a couple of more shots of the environment, and it just looks really, really good. I'm so excited for the combat because it looks really, really fun. But right after this, we kind of get into some of the more cinematic stuff. Now, this woman says the gods of these realms don't take kindly to outsiders, which of course she is referring to, most likely, Kratos. Trust me, she says, when they find you, and they will, they'll make things difficult. Now, it's this woman that says this, and we don't know who this woman is. Now, it's very interesting because this gives us, God, I keep saying interesting, I'm sorry, but I'm really excited to see, because this is very intriguing because, first of all, we don't really know who this woman is, but what we do see is that she's already kind of telling Kratos, the gods of these lands don't like outcasts, and they're gonna make it known that they don't like outcasts. And so we can already tell that Kratos is kind of gonna have to go back to his old, not necessarily go back to his old ways, but kind of revisit some of his old demons in facing gods that are oppressing him. And I wonder how he's gonna deal with those issues, especially with Atreus around to see him go through all of these things. He can't just relentlessly murder whoever he wants anymore because he has a son to take care of and raise properly. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Kratos handles this situation because Kratos has to go through an entirely different issue now. He has a son to raise, and he has to make sure that he raises him with the right values and the right views. He's trying to raise him as a brave warrior, but he doesn't want to turn him into a big ball of rage that he used to be. And so for this woman, whoever she is, to say, these gods aren't going to take kindly to you, for Kratos to kind of have to revisit that old spark in him that, he's always been an outcast, and he's going to be outcast again by a new set of gods. I'm just wondering how Kratos is going to handle that situation, especially with Atreus around. Interesting to see. Now, this is where it gets really good. Kratos says, wait here, I will handle this. He hands Atreus a knife and goes on to, we go on to see a little bit more combat. Now, the scene switches, and we see a couple of shots of this, and I'm going to talk about the combat for a cool minute now because this is really interesting. A lot of it's kind of the same basic stuff. We see a lot of really nice looking, beautiful shots of Kratos taking down these demons. I'm still not really sure what they're called, where they came from, why they're attacking him, but I believe the focus of this area was not only to kind of show you some more animations and how pretty the environments in the game was, but more specifically to show you some combat, and that's what I'm going to focus on for a few minutes. We see Kratos slicing up the enemies with a few basic combos. We see Kratos throwing his axe in a little spiral at these enemies, which looks really cool. I love the lighting that they use in this environment. I love how beautiful everything looks. We see some sparkles, some nice little particles of ice coming out of Kratos' axe as he throws it at these enemies. And then we see this really, really interesting thing. We see this little gauntlet that Kratos has on his left wrist, and we see it expand out into this golden shield, and it's like it's cool. It's really, really awesome because when you first see the shield, it like slowly comes out and like activates, and it looks really cool. And then Kratos bashes an enemy with the shield and then goes on to punch and kick a few enemies and bash them with the shield and do this little spin move, and it looks really cool. Now, I'm really curious to see where this shield came from and how Kratos is going to learn how to utilize it. But it looks really, really interesting. I'm really excited to put this shield to use. Now, as you can see right here on the ground, I'll show you guys a screenshot. His axe is like in the ground as he takes out the shield. So it's really interesting because this shows that it's not just a simple move where Kratos throws the axe and it comes back to you. Kind of in the same fashion that Starkiller did in Star Wars The Force Unleashed, if you guys remember playing that game. Once you threw the lightsaber, it always came back to you. And the way they're handling this is kind of like how they handled Takeda in Mortal Kombat X. If you don't know it, I'll just explain it to you real quick, but Takeda, what he would do is he had these like laser swords, which were basically lightsabers. He would throw them down into the ground, and you could call them and shoot them up and attack your enemy whenever you wanted to. Well, it seems like Kratos is able to do this same thing in the new God of War game, where as you can see right here, the axe is still stuck in the ground as he's using this shield to beat up his enemies. But then once he's done giving them a little combo, he immediately picks his axe back up and then starts using more combos on them. Now, this one part is really, really cool because in the old God of War games, you used to be able to hold triangle and launch your enemies up and then jump up with them so you could do a little combo. And Kratos doesn't do that exact same thing here, but what he does is he launches an enemy into the air and then he slams it back down onto the ground, and it looks really, really smooth and really, really nice. And it just looks really, really fun to play. And then the scene switches to Kratos fighting this troll, or what looks to be a troll. I don't know exactly what you would call it, because it looks different than the troll that we saw in the E3 2016 trailer. But then Kratos does the same move we saw in the E3 2016 trailer, and he slams his axe into the ground, and it causes this big wave to move, which kind of reminds me of, you know, the old God of War games. If you remember, he would take the Blades of Chaos and swing, like, you know, the old combo, square, square, triangle, and he would slam into the ground, and it kind of reminded me of that, just the way he slams, and then this big wave of this icy wind and power just pushes towards the enemy and causes some damage. And then the scene switches again and proceeds to this little shot of it's actually really interesting because as Cory Balrog, the director of the game, mentioned, Atreus is going to have his own dedicated button. And what's really, really interesting about this is that, whether or not it be square or circle or whatever, it's really interesting to see how we're going to be able to use him, because if he just has one dedicated button, it's going to be very fun to utilize him, because as we can see in this small little snippet right here, Atreus actually gets onto the back of one of the enemies, and then Kratos slams the enemy up. And then as Atreus this is so cool. This is like the coolest combo I've ever seen. So Atreus jumps on this enemy's back, and then Kratos, boom, hits him, and the enemy goes up into the air. Then Kratos takes another swing and slams his axe back down into the enemy, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. I can't speak. It's so cool. Kratos then uses another swing to slam into his enemy and cause some serious damage, where at this point Atreus jumps off of the enemy and then shoots an electric arrow into the enemy that they've been attacking. Then Kratos takes one more big charged up swing right at the enemy, and then it causes a shockwave to travel out and hit all of the surrounding foes, which is really, really awesome. It was so cool, and I'm really, really hoping that that wasn't like just a cinematic thing, or that it wasn't, I'm assuming it wasn't, but I'm really hoping that that wasn't just some kind of scripted thing, because it looked awesome. Kratos slams this guy up, swings this guy, the axe at this guy. He gets taken up into the air. He slams back down at him. All the meanwhile, this whole time, Atreus is just holding onto his back. Atreus jumps off, shoots the electric arrow at him, shocks him, and then Kratos finishes him off with one big swing that is so powerful and so impactful. The impact actually damages the other enemies in the area, so it looks really, really cool. Oh man, and then the scene cuts again to Kratos with his shield and axe equipped at the same time. Voice crack. Kratos has his shield and his axe equipped at the same time. It looks like he's holding his axe up almost as like a kind of blast charge. Kind of like not a projectile, but like he's charging it up, and like it causes like a small blast radius, almost like a charged up grenade type of thing. And then the scene switches once again to Kratos kind of dealing with some more enemies. A little bit less amazing as the other parts, but then we see another part where I thought was specifically interesting. I've mentioned before that Kratos is able to throw his axe and control it in a lot of different ways. And right here we see this one part where Kratos takes a big swing and the axe goes out of his hands. The axe then proceeds to travel in a circle, hitting not one, not two, but I think 3 different enemies, which is really cool. He swings it around him in a circle, and then he takes the axe back, and then he slams it downward into this enemy 1, 2 times, and then he kicks him to the side, and bleeding in a pile of 2, and it just looks so cool. From what I've seen of the combat in this game so far, it just looks so fluid, and it looks so nice, and it just looks like it's gonna be really fun, because that's one of the most amazing things about the game. Obviously, you spend a lot of time in the God of War games just fighting stuff. That's what Kratos is known for. Destroying the gods, slaying demons, slaying Ares to become a god himself, and all of that jazz. So for the combat to look so amazing, for him to use that shield to bash those enemies in these combos, to, you know, use Atreus to shoot those arrows and, you know, to be able to blast enemies away and throw his axe and take it back and throw it in a circle and slice apart so many enemies at once, all the while, every once in a while, slicing an enemy in half or ripping his head off and stuff like that. It all just looks so cool, and I'm really excited to see exactly how it works and everything, especially with the moving camera, because in all of the other previous games, Kratos would use the command of the right, or we would use the command of the right stick with Kratos to, you know, help him dodge. So I'm really curious to see that, since I'm assuming the right stick is going to be used to move the camera from now on. I'm really wondering how you're going to be able to dodge and how that's going to change the controls. I'm assuming it's not going to change too much. I'm pretty sure square and triangle are probably still, it's safe to assume that square and triangle are probably still going to be your main attack buttons, but then you have your button dedicated to Atreus. So one of the only things I'm worried about in this game is kind of how the controls work, and hopefully it's not too convoluted and different, because that was one of the most amazing things about God of War, is that it wasn't too complicated, but, you know, it was complex enough for it to be deep, but it wasn't too complex for it to be this really, really hard to master thing that was difficult for everybody to grasp. But I have faith in the studio. I believe they're going to do a good job with their art, and I'm not too worried about it, and it already looks super, super fun. And it's funny because after these little combat sequences, it seems that the studio is going for a bit of a tonal change. This short little character says, wow, that was some fight that blah, blah. And it's kind of funny. I remember laughing the first time I saw it, because I have watched this trailer before. I saw it when E3 2017 premiered. But it looks like they're going for kind of a little tonal change, because this character says this, and then Kratos like throws the axe at him, and he gets scared, and then he's like, oh, you know, it's pretty funny. But it's kind of interesting to see them not only go for a combat change and a art direction change and even a mythology change, but for them to go for kind of a different tonal change as well is kind of a refreshing thing to see. One thing I wanted to bring up right now is we saw the cover art and the game is rating pending, which is kind of worrying me, because I would like the game to still be rated M for it to keep the gruesome dark tales that it can, because with them going with this kind of more comedic style, it's not that they haven't had any comedy before, but for them to kind of emphasize it for a small second here kind of doesn't necessarily worry me, because it wouldn't be a big deal. But it'd be kind of strange if this next God of War game was rated T for teen instead of M for mature, because while it would make total sense, because Kratos does have a son, and it wouldn't be right for him to be, you know, having the sex mini game while he's just there next to him and killing all of these monsters and doing all of this terrible stuff while his son's next to him. I would still like the game to be rated M so that it could have those gritty themes and who knows, maybe even some swear words here and there. But I just kind of wanted to bring that up. Perhaps maybe this God of War might be rated T for teen. We don't know, and if it is, it's not going to be a big deal, but it's just kind of something I wanted to bring up, because I was thinking about it, because, you know, this God of War game has a lot less blood. You know, all of the characters seem to bleed this icy stuff or this lava stuff. I'll put up some screenshots here. It doesn't seem that there's a lot of blood in this game, and so this game very well might be rated T for teen, which wouldn't be a big problem for me, as long as it's the same Kratos that we know and love, and we still, you know, get new story, gameplay, and stuff like that. I'm not worried, but I'm interested to see if it is T for teen, you know, what's going to be different, what's going to change. So I'm just a little side note that I wanted to bring up, but it still looks pretty interesting, you know, even if it is rated T for teen. Now after this, we see some more beautiful environment shots. We see Kratos and Atreus. It's actually funny, Atreus is on Kratos' back and he's climbing, which is really cool to see, because in the first 3 God of War games and even the 2 PSP games, the way Kratos would climb is he would stick his blades in the wall and slowly climb up. But in God of War Ascension, they introduced a much more robust, much more fleshed out climbing system, which just looked a lot better, and it was a lot more realistic. It looked very, very good, and it was very, very fun to use. So for them to kind of bring that climbing, the more natural climbing back, and to see that make a return is pretty nice. It's kind of nice to know that we're not just going to be using our you know, blade to swing, not our blade, but we're not just going to be swinging anywhere. We're not just going to use our blades to stab them in the wall and climb. It's kind of nice to know we're going to still keep that more realistic climbing style, which is something I was hoping they would keep. Now this is where the trailer gets a little bit more cinematic. Kratos says, on our journey, we will be attacked by all manner of creature. We see Kratos in this dark-looking cave with these beautiful-looking creatures. I'm not sure what any of the creatures are in this game, but they all look really good. These guys who look like these bull skulls with these like huge antlers on them look really, really cool. Or horns, I guess, not antlers. With these huge horns on them look really, really cool. It's just really cool. And like I said, we see Kratos saying, on our journey, we will be attacked by all manner of creature. He proceeds to say, actually, I'll take a second here, because like I said, I'm watching the trailer, so I'll take a second here to acknowledge this. We see this kind of knight-looking character in this icy area dressed in blue, and it kind of, I'm not sure what they were called, but it kind of reminds me of this character we saw in God of War Ascension. I'll put a picture up right here. There he is. Yeah, it reminds me of that guy. So just a small little thing. It's kind of nice to know that they're still keeping kind of a general direction. They're changing a lot of things, but it's still the same God of War we know, and you could see some familiarity, and I really like that. But then Kratos continues on to, on our journey, we will be attacked by all manner of creature. To be effective in combat, a warrior must not feel for his enemy, which is really, here, I'll listen to a little more real quick. We see some more combat. And Kratos says, close your heart to their desperation. We see this cool little shot of Kratos chopping this guy's head off. I'll put that screenshot up. It looks really cool. Kratos then says, you must close your heart to their suffering. We see some more combat, and it all looks very beautiful. But it's very interesting to see Kratos kind of taking this more mentor style approach to talking to his son. As we saw last year, he kind of had to try really hard to stay calm. And to see him tutoring his son like this is really cool. The road ahead is long and unforgiving, Kratos says. No place for a boy. And it's just to hear him say all of these things is really, really cool, because it's very, very different. It's very, very different. To see Kratos have to be so kind and caring to his son is something we've never seen before. It's something we're just not used to. And it's a very good change for the story, and it's nice to get a little bit more insight into exactly how this is all going to work. Exactly what is changing in Kratos. And what exactly is going to change about Atreus' life, depending on, Kratos' past, how he wants to take his future and everything. But to see Kratos take a very, very responsible role with his son kind of shows that he has grown a lot in the 10 or 5 or not 5, but in the 10 or 15 or however many years it's been since we last saw Kratos. He's changed a lot, and I'm really, really curious to see just how much he's changed. But this is a very big show that he has changed quite a bit. He's a very different person than we last saw when he killed Zeus. And for him to be tutoring his son in this way and showing him the way to greatness, the way as a warrior, telling him to close his heart to his enemy's suffering, and training him like he was trained when he was a child. Kratos is training Atreus in a similar to way that Kratos was trained when he was younger. He was trained as a warrior, and he eventually became the captain of the Greek army. So, not the Greek army, the Spartan army, excuse me. I think I might have said Greek army earlier, but as the captain of the Spartan army, it's really interesting to see that Kratos is really changing from that rage-filled character that we all do know and love, and tutoring his son in such a pure, and so far it looks like he's tutoring him in a very good way. He's teaching him quite well. He says, you must be a warrior. Atreus says, but not everyone is bad. Mother always said to be open to those who can help. Now, this is interesting because it kind of provides a little bit of insight into what might be the very big difference between Kratos and Atreus. Kratos has always been all by himself. The only people he ever trusted were his wife and his child. And the one time he trusted anybody else, Ares, he forced Kratos to kill them. So he's probably always going to have that mentality where everything must be done by him. He's a lone wolf. He likes being by himself. He likes taking care of everything himself. He doesn't rely on anybody. The only people you could argue that he relied on were his army, and that was only because he couldn't take on complete armies by himself. And even though he couldn't at the time, after he plotted his revenge against Ares, he went on to basically take on armies by himself, and even the gods. Kratos has always been by himself, and so he has that mentality. But Atreus, being raised by his mother, who was probably very caring and wants to care for the other people around her and her son, Atreus says, mother always said to be open to those who can help. And it's just really interesting because I have a feeling that this is going to be a very big issue between Atreus and Kratos in the game. Kratos wanting to do things alone and be by himself, but having to accept the fact that his kid is going to need help. whether it be from him or somebody else, and that Kratos himself is going to need help, whether it be from Atreus or somebody else. Now we see these creatures. One of them was seen earlier. I'll put the two of them side by side. Now we don't know who these people are. We don't know what they're doing here. But I'm really curious to see, who they are. What purpose they have, because they're a lot shorter than Kratos, and so they might be like a certain type of creature that we see throughout the game. Obviously not an enemy, or at least I would hope not. At any point that turns into an enemy, but we see this progression and we see more creatures. And one thing I do want to say is that the creature design so far is very, very good. A lot of it's pretty basic, like the enemies with the lava inside of them, like we saw last year, or the enemies with that ice blue looking stuff inside of them. That looks kind of simple, but then we see those creatures with the horns on them and they look really cool. And then we see the big troll who carries that big flaming rock that slams into Kratos. And it all looks really, really good. Environment, costume design for Kratos, character design, everything. It looks really, really good. Now, speaking of environment design, right after this, we see Kratos rowing the canoe through this environment that looks absolutely beautiful. He's rowing the canoe through this environment. We see these beautiful looking little sprite butterfly things, and I'll take a picture of this scene right here. It looks so good, and I'm so glad that for Kratos' PS4 premiere, they're using the power of the PlayStation 4. Sony Santa Monica is really using the power of the PS4 to its full potential. I can only imagine how good this thing is going to look on the Pro, because I myself don't have a PlayStation Pro. I still have a regular PlayStation. I don't even have a PlayStation 4 Slim. I just have the regular launch PS4, but I'm really, really glad to see that it looks very, very beautiful, because that's one of the things that God of War is very popular for. It's a very beautiful game, just to see that hasn't changed, and to see that with these new environments, they're taking new steps and exploring new environments and taking risks is a very good thing. I'm very glad that they're taking the risks that they're taking, because so far it seems to be taking them in a very good direction. Right here at this part of the trailer, the woman that we saw earlier talking to Kratos about how the gods aren't going to like the outsiders says, oh, hold on, let me rewind it. Sorry, guys. She says, "Who you were before doesn't matter. This boy is not your past. He is your son." And again, this is just kind of more story insight, but I thought that was really interesting. This boy is, who you were doesn't matter. Because Kratos did used to be a very different person, and as I said, he's made a big change. This woman goes on to say, this boy is not your past. He is your son, and he needs his father. And we see this little scene. I wanted to talk about this because we see this little part where Atreus is on the floor asleep. Kratos is talking to this woman, and this woman is saying he needs his father. And just the way that they're talking and the way that their relationship seems to be, I'm thinking that this might be Atreus' mother right here. We don't know her name. We don't know who she is. She might just be an oracle of some sort. She might just be some stranger that they met at a shop or an inn or whatever you want to call it somewhere. But I have a hunch that this might be Atreus' mother. Now, whether or not that's been confirmed or whatever, I don't know. So tell me if you guys do know. But is it just me? It really seems like this, just the way that she's talking to Kratos and the way that she's being very supportive and understanding, and the way that she's informing Kratos, the gods of these realms aren't going to like outsiders. She says he needs his father. Atreus needs his father. She seems, like I said, she seems to be taking on a motherly role right here. She does. And so maybe she is the mother, maybe she isn't. That's all up to speculation as of now, unless, like I said, it's been confirmed. But yeah, let's keep going. Oh, and the epic climactic finale of this trailer, as we see this creature, the world serpent, rise up out of the ocean. And he opens his eye, whatever you want to call it. It opens its eye. And its eye is like 5 times the size of Kratos. So for his eyeball to be that big, the trailer proceeds, Kratos is like, "What is this?" Atreus says, "It's the world serpent." The world serpent moves its head back, and it is massive, and it looks really, really good. Just take a look for a second and look at how beautiful this is. You see the fog surrounding it. You see its face, its eyes, its mouth. it goes on to actually spit out Kratos' axe that he threw earlier at the beginning of the trailer. The World Serpent actually goes on to speak in that same language that we saw the troll speak at last year's E3 2016 trailer. The World Serpent is speaking to them in what sounds to be the same language. And as I mentioned earlier, Atreus can speak this language, and he's actually very familiar with it. He said, Kratos asks, "What's it saying?" And Atreus says he wants to help us, which I'm really excited to see because I want to see Kratos and Atreus riding on the back of the World Serpent as a bunch of monsters attack them and, they fight back, and Kratos is like running along the spine of the World Serpent, slicing up enemies, and Atreus is like on the canoe rowing on the side, shooting electric arrows at him. That would be really cool. A man can dream, right? But that's pretty much the end of the trailer right there. Not too much is shown after that. The logo reappears, and the Sony Santa Monica studio reappears again, and that classic music plays, and it's just one of the best experiences ever. And at the end of this trailer, we see the new box art for the game. We see this little picture with that little symbol that says, rating pending. We see Kratos standing on this canoe with Atreus, and it looks really, really nice. It looks beautiful. It looks kind of cartoony, but, it's the cover art. I'm not going to complain, about the game based on the cover art. It's not important. Well, it's important, but, not that important. But I'm really excited to see what the background cover art for this game is, because every God of War game has had, some kind of background thing. Even in the first God of War game, it would have the cover art with the ESRB rating and the logos on it from the studio and everything, but then you would reverse it and it would be an image. So I'm hoping they do this with this new God of War game. But that's pretty much going to be it for the trailer. So I'm hoping it wasn't too weird. I hope I didn't make too many pauses. This one was a lot more cut. This one had a lot. It was a lot less linear, and so it was a lot harder for me to pause it at certain moments and talk about that for a second, and then be able to move on. Because in this trailer, a lot happened at once. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, this is taking just about as long as the original video took me last year. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. Please tell me what you guys think of this trailer. If there's anything you guys wanted to talk about that maybe I missed, if there's anything you guys noticed that I didn't, if there's anything at all you guys want to talk about, please tell me in the comments. I love interacting with you guys, and I'm really hoping to do that with this game, because as I've always told you guys, this is my absolute favorite game series of all time. I'm so glad to see it coming back, and I'm so glad I'm so glad to just see the direction that they're taking. There's so many new beautiful things. Combat looks beautiful. The new shield weapon, we got to look at that. If you noticed, I'll put it up on the screen right here and talk about it for just a second. Kratos has this like red head on his back. I'm not sure what it's for. It might be a power. It might be nothing. But I want to see what that's all about. So I'll put a screenshot up right now and show you that. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. So make sure you guys, leave your comments in the comment section below. Please. I want to talk about this game with you guys because I want it to come out. We finally got a release date window, and it's early 2018, so be expecting maybe a review on that, or maybe gameplay. I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that game yet when it does come out, but I'm really excited for my favorite game series of all time to finally make its PS4 debut, and I hope to experience that with you guys in the future and for us to be able to talk about it. So thank you guys all so much for watching. I really hope you all enjoyed. Make sure you guys hit that video up with a like if you did. Make sure you guys leave your thoughts, comments, and suggestions below. Make sure you guys subscribe to see more God of War coming eventually. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye, everybody!